This is Veazie Gaming, the very first one. You probably heard our announcement about a week ago that we are going to start doing gaming stuff. So here's the first one. This is Pause, and here I have Evan. Sorry, I knew that. What's your last name? Anderson. Okay. And we are going to talk about eSports. We're going to have 4 different kinds of things on the gaming channel. Right now, however, we are just going to do Pause, which is just let's discuss certain things. Anyway, so eSports. They are defined as electronic sports. So, what is your take on eSports? What's the most popular eSport? Let's start with that.
Right now, the most popular eSports has to be Dota 2. With Dota 2 being the longest running eSports out there.
Yeah, and that is a mod from StarCraft, isn't it?
It is actually a mod from World of Warcraft.
What was the one that was StarCraft? Was StarCraft also a mod of?
No, StarCraft is another game by Blizzard, in which in itself is its own eSports.
I thought there was another the mod of StarCraft that was. No.
The original Dota started as a mod for Warcraft 3, Throne of the Frozen.
All right. That was original Warcraft, not World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that was original Warcraft.
Which I hear is much better.
It is.
It's much better because you don't have to deal with noobs.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with people that like to get angry for no reason.
I mean, yeah, and I used to play World of Warcraft, and when I would start off, I would be, having my fun adventure in the little forest or desert or wherever I was at, and then somebody comes around level 60 and just hits me once and I die. I'm like, that's no fun. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, I actually used to play too.
I only played because my dad had it, so. Anyway. So, eSports, on ESPN, they have recently been showing off eSports on ESPN2 and ESPN3, and even the president says that these are not real sports. I disagree. I think with the team base, the level in which you have to trust each other, the tasks you have at hand, those are all make it a team sport much better than basketball or football or some of those other things.
I agree with you on that point, simply because while in basketball, football, and all the other physical sports, it's physical exertion. You're exhausting your muscles. But with eSports, it's more of a mental exertion because you have a lot more to think about. You have to think about, like, when do I fight here? When is this player on my team ready? And is he going to live? And stuff like that.
You have to realize what sacrifices especially you have to realize, because in real sports like in basketball, when you are playing, you got to know what each other's strengths are. Can he dribble fast? Can he run fast? Is he better at shooting 3-point, 2-point? But with eSports, you gotta rely on so much more. Is this guy a medic? Does he have any abilities that will help me in this situation? Is he gonna take left, right, middle? What's he gonna do? On top of that, you got 5 other people that all have different styles, but they all have to work together to do the common goal.
That depends on what game you're playing. For a popular esports one, I think it's the most second popular esport is League of Legends. And with that, a lot of the pro players can actually play any role on the team.
They can, because they practice all of it to see which one they fit, but
for the most part, League of Legends is heavily based on mechanics. If you can pull off those mechanics, you will be good in just about any role, as long as you have the certain play style that suits you for each and every role. Like, there's this player named Dyrus. He ex-pro player for League of Legends. He played in World Championship, qualified all 5 times for him. So, never won, but he is, other than one other player, he was the longest running pro league player in general. And he, all 5 years, he has played in top lane. If you're a smite player, that would be either left or right, depending on what side you are.
Okay. And I don't barely know anything, but basically it's just 3 lanes. It can be horizontal or vertical, right?
Yeah, that's because the game genre, it's called MOBA.
Online
Battle Arena.
Yes. role-playing game if you're doing the full MOBA RPG, but
Yeah.
many people just do MOBA. But I don't think it's much RPG anymore. It's more of just a battle arena.
Yeah. But he's played top lane all 5 years, and he has shown exceptional skill on his streams, especially when he can't get this top lane role, that he can carry as any lane. I've seen him carry as a support player, which it's really good early game, but late game you can't do a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of these people, they deserve a lot more recognition than they get. And, was it this guy that you were talking about before when you were saying was he in the military or something? Is that a different guy?
It's a different guy.
Okay.
This guy, he's also, I wouldn't say he's former, he's more like a sub player now. I don't know his real name, but his game name is Saint Vicious. And
Saint Vicious?
Saint Vicious.
Oh.
He actually got it from, it was a random thing. He got Saint from his favorite anime Cowboy Bebop. But other than that, Vicious was out of nowhere.
Vicious is just, it's a cool name. Saint Vicious, that kind of is an oxymoron for the saint thing, so that's pretty cool.
But he was former Navy before he started playing this game professionally. And eSports, you can get into the professional scene up to as young as 17 years old.
That's interesting that you can. And a lot of these people that are playing these professional sports are really young because, I mean, it's not biased, it's just true that younger people are more in tune with technology because they grew up with it.
Yes.
But esports have been around since 1980 with the first Space Invaders tournament, which...
actually, the first known gaming tournament was in the 70s.
Was it really?
It was in October 19th, 1972 for the game known as Space War.
Space War,
and it was held in Stanford University.
Yes, and then colleges, especially high colleges, were the only ones that had any sort of internet. That normal people didn't have internet. I'm actually surprised my mother when I was talking about this by saying that in 1985 there were still esports, and she says there wasn't internet, and I said yeah, there was. You go to Harvard, there was internet there. I mean, it was very crappy internet, very dial-up, but it was still internet.
Yeah, but this particular gaming tournament wasn't played with internet.
It wasn't. It was
no,
that one. Well, of course, 72. I think that was still pre-internet. I don't know.
But the grand prize for that was actually a year's subscription to the Rolling Stones magazine.
Really? So the Rolling Stones supported this?
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm guessing they wrote an article about it or something.
I'm not too sure.
I'm pretty sure they covered it at some point somehow.
Yeah.
That's cool that in 72 esports were even around, and then they continued progressing until when you got into the 80s. That's when arcade esports were happening, where people would do tournaments after tournaments trying to get the top score. Then that kept going into the rise of the PC that started getting where you could do I mean, it still took a long time to get to that point where you weren't playing with just dialogue boxes anymore, but when it did, it blew up. As soon as that hit, all these other kinds of games started coming out with Warcraft. When Warcraft 3 came out, then Dota was a mod of that. Then Dota has branched off, League of Legends now. There's so much. Even you can do handheld esports right now. And Hearthstone is seen as a very popular handheld esport, right?
Yes. Among others, this one's really not an esport, but it is connected with the professional player scene. It is games like Pokemon, where they have yearly tournaments for that.
They also have card tournaments, but that's a different thing. That's not an esport. That's a trading card game.
It can be, I wouldn't say, it's a scene of the esports. It's not necessarily electronic, but it still has a mental strain on the players.
And it definitely does not fit with traditional. I feel like since ESPN covers the World Poker Tournament every year, why don't they cover other card games? Because poker is so much more simple than Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, or I don't like Yu-Gi-Oh, but Magic. Magic is huge, and you can get millions of dollars if you win these tournaments. Just go to your local card shop, nerd shop, comic book shop, that's what I was trying to think of, and you can play tournaments, and these people are very competitive because they want to get to the point where they are professional. Even if it's not an esport, it's still a sect of an esport, considering it's not a traditional sport and it's not electronic. There's still a mental capacity to play these things where strategy is involved.
Yeah, the reason why I think those particular ones, the TCG games, are not filmed is because of the older players' mindsets, the older sports players, because a lot of those games seem childish, while in reality they're becoming not so much childish anymore. They're getting more popular.
They're becoming into the popular circle with pop culture. Pop culture is just culture that was 10 years ago, but now it's becoming popular.
Yes.
Where every kind of game that was nerdy is now, like, nerdy as in, now nerdy means something different than it did 10, 15, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, when you were calling somebody a nerd, you were insulting them. You were saying you focus so much on stuff that isn't real, that isn't a real pastime. But when you say nerdy now,
it's a compliment.
It's a compliment because you were spending that much time involved in a culture, and there's a lot of posers. There's a lot of people who put on an Ash Ketchum hat and say, "Oh, I gotta catch them all." Really? Name 6 of the Pokemon right now, other than Pikachu.
Well, a lot of that started with comic books.
It did
in the 50s, because the comic books back then were made for the younger audience. They were made for kids around 10, 11 years old.
Yeah, but of course that kind of branched off because when was Batman released?
Those early 30s.
Yeah. Why can't Google just give me a straight answer? Just this is when it was done. But when it first came out, Batman, was for kids, but it has since turned into so much more than that. Batman was actually, I'm not sure if it was for kids, because Batman and Superman were detective comics. Superman didn't have super weird abilities. He was the all-American boy. He was used as propaganda to join World War II. He wasn't used directly as propaganda, but he was seen in that, with that. So I don't think they originally started as, when, of course, they still were seen as kiddish then because it's still a book, it's still a picture book, and that eventually evolved into, why are you looking at superheroes instead of looking at getting a real job in the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up into the mid-90s when they started getting really popular. And because they started making movies and they started making more merchandise, so superheroes became really popular. And with that became the trend of, superheroes are really cool. I mean, there was still prejudice up until 2000s, but it became a completely normal thing for everybody to love Spider-Man, everybody to love Superman, even though they have only either seen the movies or they had only briefly seen things about them, that they hadn't really started anything. They had not read the comics, and I have not read really any comic books. I have read a few, but when I learn anything, it's from video games or from movies or from wikis. Just trend starting happened then, and that has gone on to be nerd culture now. Is everybody loves it except nobody loves it because they're just they're jumping bandwagons.
Yes. That being said, that is actually how eSports most likely got started. Was people who had no idea what this was other than briefly playing the arcade games. jumped in on it and was like, hey, this is cool, let's try this. And it just evolved from there. It got into something big.
It was nerd groups, and now you go out into anywhere and ask people if they have Clash of Clans. They say, of course I have Clash of Clans. Clash of Clans is my life. That has turned into an esport. Esports are everywhere with everything, and everybody is influenced by them. Even if it's a jock, they still have Clash of Clans or a farming game, or they have Hearthstone. I know several people who have Hearthstone and who play it competitively, but they weren't from the. If this was 15 years ago, there's no way in hell they would play Hearthstone. They would not play a card game. They would not play of course, it's more a little bit more than a card game, but Hearthstone is still World of Warcraft, right?
It's based on the lore of World of Warcraft, yes.
And it's still developed by Blizzard. Correct?
Yes. Well, Blizzard that's actually Blizzard's only esports game, but they do have competitions for World of Warcrafts. Well, other than StarCraft.
Wait, I was like, Blizzard has more than that.
StarCraft and Hearthstone are Blizzard's only esports. But for World of Warcraft, because of MMOs getting so popular, and that one being the number one MMO out there at the time, or at the moment, they have their own separate competition where Blizzard themselves pays for it.
Huh. Blizzard is a huge corporation. Doesn't Blizzard also have the Magic series? No. That's Wizards of the Coast. That's right. I thought they had some part to do with that. No. Are there Hearthstone cards? Like actual
I'm pretty sure there is.
It might not be where you can play Hearthstone straight out with cards, but probably more like you buy these and then you can download them.
Well, I know Blizzard does have their own TCG.
Blizzard has Diablo. That's another esport. No?
There's no competition for Diablo.
Really?
Nope. No big competition for Diablo.
Yep, everything is just completed. Anyway, you have more notes on this. What else would you like to know?
Well, looking at this, right now, there's an astonishing number of 71 million people who watch esports.
71 million people watch esports.
And it's mostly done through Twitch.
I have gone on Twitch about 2 times. My internet sucks at home, so it's very, very hard for me to. Oh, that probably should be tighter. It's very hard for me to stream anything, and watching people play things live has never really been my favorite thing. I'm more of I don't watch Let's Plays on YouTube. I don't know. I guess I do watch Let's Plays on YouTube, but I don't really watch people live because, one, I don't have the time to. I have other stuff I need to be doing, and the internet sucks, but I understand it is a huge part of esports right now, that it's how most people watch those things. They could watch clips of it on YouTube, but you can't get the full experience of watching an esport unless it's on Twitch, unless it's live.
For League of Legends, you can.
You can watch it on YouTube?
There are several. They stream it on YouTube too.
Okay. Yeah, I know you can stream stuff, but
there are several channels on YouTube that put in full matches. I mean, it's segmented into 30 minute matches, but you can watch it full, and you hear the host talking, you hear the game analyst talking about what the losing team could have done to win.
Just like color commentators.
Yes.
And everybody else who does that kind of stuff. So, it was 7.1 million?
71.
71 million. Okay, never mind. 71 million people watch them, and that's constantly, those things are going on due to different time zones. You could watch different competitions all the time. Of course, there are bigger competitions, but those bigger competitions, those can be broadcast on actual networks. Those like ESPN2 and ESPN3 have been following the tournament, or is it the tournament? The International, which is the Dota 2 competition, which millions of dollars are given out in prizes. And honestly, in my opinion, I feel like if these people want to start making money, they need to start covering nerdy stuff. They need to stop just focusing on basketball, football, racing, poker, a lot of those spelling bees, world cup stacking. A lot of those aren't even sports. So why can't you maybe dedicate an entire channel to nerdy stuff? You can cover eSports. You could make a partnership with Twitch where you stream it, you support it. You could start live streaming these competitions with your own commentators. You could start covering Pokemon tournaments. You could start covering Magic tournaments. You could do Hearthstone. You could do a ton of stuff if only ESPN gets out of the dark ages and their president really is. He doesn't even have a Twitter. I mean, a lot of professional people, when they have a Twitter, I put air quotes around that just for people because you can't see that. When they have a Twitter, they don't actually have the Twitter. They pay people to do it. Why isn't he paying somebody to keep up with the Twitter? It just seems like something at this point you should do. And his name is John Skipper. That's his name. I couldn't think of it for a second. But he says that esports are not a tradition or a traditional sport, and they should not be covered by ESPN.
That is because of his age.
It is because of his age.
He did not grow up with video games being a big thing.
He grew up with, when you heard about a competition, it was about 30 people in a college. They're all eating pizza and playing Pac-Man.
Yeah.
That's what he thought they were. He was probably the jock in school who made fun of nerds who read comic books. I don't know John Skipper. I completely doubt that you are listening to this, but hell, if somebody is listening to this and then goes and tells him, I don't mean you any prejudice. I'm just saying, get with the times. Come on, man.
Well, you also have to look on the aspect that esports, if you're a pro esports player or even just a fan of them, you get to travel a lot. Like this year's League of Legends World's Championship was held in 4 different locations all throughout Europe. It ended in Berlin. Berlin. In Berlin?
And take us through. What is the competition like? What
the World Championship for League of Legends is, it starts out with a round robin.
Round robin?
Like a general tournament, you get it's the brackets.
Oh, okay.
And starts out with 16 teams. After that ends up with 8 teams who go into the quarterfinals. Then you go into the semifinals and finally the finals.
Which is 4 teams semi, 2 teams finals.
Yes.
Okay. And how do you have to, what is the requirements to be able to register for being a team?
That actually comes back to the pro scene from the separate countries. There's this team, TSM, which, let's see, let me pull this up real quick. Like, they do a point system, and you have to qualify. You either win the championship in your country, you get the highest number of points, or you qualify through a different means. There's one other mean you can do it, one other way.
And what's the other way that you can qualify?
I'm not sure what the other way you can qualify.
You just know there is another way.
Yes, there's one other way. Most countries get 3 teams going, and the biggest countries right now is North America, Korea, China.
North America is in the United States, or all of North America?
It's all of North America. They have players come. The
Canada,
professional
Mexico.
teams, have players come from there.
Is Greenland in North America? No.
But most of the North American teams are based in the U.S. Like, their gaming houses are in the U.S., but they do have players from here. Like, we had a North America player that was from Norway. You don't exactly have to live in North America to get drafted onto a North American team.
Just people from there have to be able to.
Yeah. You have to move there after you get drafted on, but you don't have to start out living in any North
You
American
can
country.
call them up and like, hey, I'm a professional Dota player. Do you want me on your team? Cool. I'm going to move to New York. See you there.
Like, right now. And you also go through a drafting with these teams. But the other biggest country is Europe that does this.
The other, and that's for Dota 2.
This is for League of Legends.
League of Legends. What you're focusing on. That's right.
The League of Legends World Championship actually started with just North America and European teams going in. Then it expanded by season 2 to China and Korea, in which Korea's actually won three different world championships, with one of their teams winning 2 of them as of this year.
Is Japan at all in League of Legends? No. Okay. They focus on, and this is a different debate entirely. Whether, that went down quickly. Okay, we're gonna need to wrap this up soon because the battery is dying on this camera. But whether Dota 2 or League of Legends is better. I hear Dota 2 is better, but the learning curve is really, 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 really hard to get up.
Dota does have a steeper learning curve, yes.
But League of Legends is easier, but the way that it's set up, many people don't like how you can only have a certain number of characters each.
You could only have 5
You can
characters.
buy them, of course, but
Oh yeah.
do you have to buy League of Legends?
No, League of Legends is free to play.
But you can always buy certain characters.
Well, you can buy characters with in-game currency or real currency.
That's amazing. More games need to do that. More games need to get away with, you have to buy this with real currency. But come on, I have like 10,000 gold. Let me buy it with that.
Yes.
All right, well, this has been interesting, but the battery is about to die. Thank you, Evan, for coming on. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I was actually going to report how much usually makes. Like
Okay.
the average, the prize pool for Dota 2 last year was $15 million.
It's amazing.
It was split between all the teams that go to the World Championship for it.
I'm guessing first place still gets the most.
Yeah,
Then it slowly divvies them up.
$3 million was used for League of Legends last year, and it has been every year since they started doing $3 million. The winning team actually gets $1 million prize pool.
Now I just need to become a professional player. All right, well, that's about all the time we got. This has been the first Veazie Gaming. This is pause number 1. I probably will get a better intro for that. But yeah, this is pause, we stop, discuss. Next week we are going to discuss Fallout. I'm not sure if Evan will be on that, but Fallout's coming out next. Fallout came out on Tuesday, so we're kind of behind, but whatever. We will talk about Fallout next week. Don't forget, we also have the book club. All right, we gotta go. Bye.